On the Gaia continent, monsters have been mysteriously disappearing for years. At first, everyone thought they were just going extinct or something, but nah, turns out these creatures were actually getting sucked into another freaking dimension. Yeah, wild, right? And funny enough, that exact twist was what one particular mage had been hoping to uncover. This dude had been obsessed with studying the whole monster exodus thing for ages. Still, even after all that digging, he had zero clue about why or how the creatures were jumping worlds. But honestly, he didn't care much about the reason. His main focus was figuring out how to use that power for himself. So after collecting every little piece of research he could get his hands on, he finally set up a massive magic circle deep inside a dungeon known as the Great Labyrinth. After years of grinding his old ass, it was finally go time. He lined up the coordinates, poured in his mana, and stepped right into the magic circle, ready to make the ultimate leap to another world. A blinding flash erupted around him, lighting up everything like a damn supernova. The spell kicked in bright aura, glowing light, the whole deal. And then, boom, nothing. Silence. When he came to, he realized something was off. The air felt different. The temperature was weird. But this wasn't another dimension. He was still outside the dungeon. Actually, correction, the dungeon itself had been teleported to another world, leaving him standing in a giant empty hole where it used to be. Talk about an oops moment. Meanwhile, somewhere in that different dimension, a young guy stood frozen in his attic, staring at an interdimensional portal that had just appeared out of nowhere. Up until a few seconds ago, his day had been painfully normal. Jinhuk was just doing his usual work routine, watching college kids rush around, feeling that little sting of nostalgia for his own student days, back when he still had energy and ambition. Now though, life was way different. As a low-tier hunter, he didn't have time for dreams or fancy goals. His coworker had to literally snap him out of his daydreaming, reminding him they were only halfway done with their shift and couldn't slack off. After a long-ass day, the two finally crashed inside their van. Jinhuk barely had on any warm clothes, even though it was freezing. But hey, perks of being a hunter. Even the weakest ones got boosted tolerance to temperature, which saved him some serious heating cash. Still, the perks didn't pay the bills. The guy was broke as hell and stuck doing random part-time jobs since every big guild hogged all the good hunter work. To make things worse, a local serial killer was out there targeting hunters from top guilds, and now those same guilds were greedily snatching up every single job around. So yeah, Jinhuk's dream of ranking up was looking pretty damn hopeless. But today, things took a sharp turn. Out of nowhere, a loud crash followed by terrified screams echoed from the nearby school. Jackpot chaos like that usually meant monsters, and taking down even a few could score him enough money to chill for an entire year. Except, of course, his luck ran out fast. Just as he rushed in, some guy slammed right into him, knocking him aside, while a squad of elite hunters swooped in to handle the scene. The area's main guild titan was already on it, moving fast and clean like pros. Their deputy guildmaster, Duyun, snapped at Jinhuk to scram unless he had a death wish. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. The gap between a broke-ass D-rank hunter like Jinhuk and an A-rank beast from a major guild was way too wide to cross. With his ambitions crushed yet again, Jinhuk just sighed, dusted himself off, and dragged himself to his next part-time shift, praying it'd at least cover a few damn bills. Later that night, when Jinhuk drags himself home, completely weighed down by defeat, he suddenly hears a strange sound echoing from deeper inside his apartment, and that's when things start getting weird. Because when he follows the noise, he ends up standing face to face with a freaking portal to another world filled with monsters, just casually floating there like it owns the place. The creatures on the other side can't seem to see him at all, and even when he steps closer, nothing happens, which instantly gets his brain spinning because this might be the break he's been waiting for his whole miserable life. He heads downstairs to gather his thoughts, trying to process the insanity in front of him, and it hits him that this portal is basically a dungeon, the kind people used to think only existed in theory, and if it had appeared anywhere else, he'd be jumping with joy. But since it's right in his damn attic, things just got way more complicated. Reporting it to the Hunter Association would mean they'd take over his place for investigation and boot him out instantly, so his only real move is to keep it low-key and claim the dungeon for himself. But before that, he needs to confirm whether monsters can cross into his world, because even though they can't see him, he knows he's barely strong enough to take down 2 or 3 goblins alone, and if an entire group somehow made it through, he'd be completely done for. With nothing left to lose, he takes a deep breath and steps right into the portal, landing on what looks like the first floor of a dungeon maze, where he barely gets a second to take in his surroundings, before a goblin charges him from the left, swinging a crude club straight at his face, forcing him to dodge and scramble right back into his attic. From there, he watches the goblin stumble around, confused, swinging at empty air like it's gone blind, which tells him 2 things: that they can't see the portal from their side, and they definitely can't cross through it either. That realization wipes away every ounce of fear he had, and he grabs a baseball bat, jumps back through the portal, and charges the goblin head-on, swinging with everything he's got, smashing it across the cheek and sending it flying before stabbing it straight in the chest to finish it off. For the first time ever, he's hunted solo, and with no teammates around. All the experience points are his alone. His level, which had been frozen for 3 years, finally ticks up, and the goblin corpse is now his property, worth a potential 3 million won if he plays it smart. The next day, he heads straight to a hunter's market with the body, hoping to cash in, and the merchant takes one look at the poorly handled corpse and instantly realizes this guy's a total newbie because his sloppy kill has already tanked the market value. But even then, Jinhuk somehow manages to secure just over 3 million won, exactly as he'd hoped. Now, all that's left is to provide the location of his hunt for verification, but that's the one piece of info he can't risk revealing, because if anyone finds out there's a dungeon chilling inside his attic, his little gold mine would vanish faster than that goblin he flattened with a bat. As he's trying to figure out how to escape this new mess, a group of hunters from the Black Dragon Guild suddenly storms in like a pack of starving hyenas looking for their next meal. Apparently, someone dared to steal a kill from their hunting grounds, and they're furious about it. At first, they zero in on Jinhuk, ready to pounce, but the merchant quickly points fingers at a clueless blonde-haired hunter standing nearby, and just like that, the poor bastard becomes their new target, getting beaten and interrogated before he can even explain himself, because sneaking into their territory without permission is straight-up suicide. For all the guild knows, this random guy could even be the serial killer they've been tracking, and as they drag his half-conscious body out of the building, Jinhuk just stands there, realizing how close he was to being in the blonde dude's shoes. Knowing there's no way he can lie about where the goblin came from, he decides selling here isn't worth the risk, and if he values his life, he'll need to find another way to offload his loot without crossing paths with those big guild psychos ever again. As soon as Jinhuk gets back home, he decides it's time to level up. Before he heads back into the dungeon, he arms himself with a teleportation stone for quick escapes back to his apartment, a monster tracking compass with a 50-meter range, and, of course, his trusty baseball bat. Fully equipped, he steps back into the dungeon for a monster-slaying spree, each victory ticking up his level by 1. True to its name, the Goblin Labyrinth is packed with goblins, making it the perfect playground for someone at level 2 to grind for experience. After a long day of hunting, his inventory is nearly maxed out. He's got room for just one more goblin. He hopes it'll be a big one for some extra cash. The compass pings, showing a goblin approaching his location. Perfect. All he needs to do is hide and launch a surprise attack. Jinhyuk positions himself around a corner, waits for the perfect moment, and swings his bat right into the face of a remarkably short man. To Jinhyuk's horror, it's not a goblin but a very irate stranger shouting at him in a language he can't understand. Jinhyuk hurriedly bows an apology, which seems to calm the man down just enough. The stranger pulls 2 necklaces from a bag, hands one to Jinhyuk, and as soon as Jinhyuk puts it on, he can suddenly understand every furious word the man is saying. That's when he realizes 2 things. First, the guy has every reason to be mad, having just taken a bat to the face, and second, this isn't just a short man, it's a dwarf, a mythical being he'd only read about in fantasy novels. As the dwarf continues to rant, Jinhyuk helps pick up the items scattered around, all of which look exceptionally high quality. Unfortunately, he doesn't get a chance to admire them before the dwarf notices his bat and snatches it up, demanding to know where Jinhyuk got it. Jinhyuk panickedly explains it's just an ordinary aluminum baseball bat, but the dwarf seems to think it's made from orichalcum, a highly prized metal. To the dwarf, this ordinary bat is so valuable that no amount of money could buy it. Instead, he offers Jinhyuk a trade, some rare items from his own stash in exchange for the bat. Seeing no reason to refuse, Jinhyuk follows the dwarf back to his workshop, watching as the dwarf takes the bat deeper into the maze of tools and treasures. As Jinhyuk glances around the workshop, his eyes fall on the various weapons laid out. He can't help but wonder which one he should try to swipe, but the dwarf returns before he can make up his mind. In his hands is Jinhyuk's newly upgraded baseball bat. For some reason, it's shining bright red and has a slight glow. Jinhyuk double-checks, is this really his bat? The dwarf confirms that it's just one of orichalcum's traits. It starts out weak and flimsy, but once enchanted, it becomes incredibly strong and durable. That last word catches Jinhyuk's attention, enchanted. Somehow, the dwarf managed to enchant his bat. Testing a few swings, Jinhyuk notices it feels entirely different from what he remembers. It's almost hard to believe that something this powerful could even exist, let alone be made from an ordinary aluminum bat. He checks his status window, and sure enough, his bat is now classified as a legendary item, boasting S-grade durability and an automatic retrieval feature. Jinhyuk's once basic bat has turned into an ultra-rare treasure. Selling this would be a jackpot, but the item's bound to him now, so no dice. Still, even if he can't make money off the bat, He can always make some cash with the goblin corpses he's stashed in his inventory. The problem, he can't sell them openly without drawing unwanted attention. His best option is the Hunter Industries black market. They don't ask questions and have a solid setup for dealing with unique inventory. Jinhuk heads home, uses one of the black market business cards, and tracks down a suspicious-looking address. The card screams shady, but it's all he's got. While searching for the entrance, a man named Deputy Cho Hyung calls down to him and invites Jinhyuk to meet the boss. The boss, Lee Junchul, is a loan shark disguised as a loan agent who also dabbles in monster corpses on the side. When Jinhyuk lays out 20 goblin corpses for inspection, the two men are stunned. Despite being a newbie, Jinhyuk managed to bring in such a huge haul, and in incredible condition too. Well, except for the bashed-in heads. As they're negotiating prices, they're interrupted by a black market merchant rushing in to announce that a monster has shown up nearby. Turns out laying out 20 fresh goblin corpses was like putting up a neon sign for nearby monsters. Worse yet, two orcs definitely out of Jinhyuk's league appear, and Jinhyuk quickly realizes he has two options: grab his corpses and run, or become orc food. But it's too late. One of the orcs is already swinging a battle axe straight at his head. He dodges the first swing, but the second one's too close. Just when he thinks it's game over, his enchanted bat magically summons itself from his inventory and blocks the attack, sending the orc flying back. Another enchantment presence detection. With this bat, Jinhyuk might actually stand a chance. As the orc charges again, Jinhyuk, now more confident, goes on the offensive. He smashes the bat down on the orc's knee, disorienting it, and follows up with a strike to its face, snapping its neck instantly. Just like that, his level jumps from 24 to 36. Before he can celebrate, the second orc attacks. This time he dodges, runs behind it, and slams his bat into its back, then finishes it off with a blow to the head. With the orcs defeated, Jinhyuk smirks, turns back to the men, and suggests they add the orc corpses to their deal. That day, he walks away with a spring in his step, having convinced them to pay him 15% above market price. His bank account is now a sight to behold, and thanks to saving the black market crew, he secured a reliable buyer for his future loot. Clearly, the black market guys have realized Jinhyuk isn't some low-level thief. They're looking at a hunter strong enough to take down two orcs solo. Even with his legendary bat and newfound strength though, he knows he'll need better gear to tackle higher-grade monsters. Fortunately, he's got a plan to score his next upgrades, maybe even for free. The next day, Jinhyuk shows up with a crate full of beer cans and alcohol for the dwarf, thinking he'd struck gold. After all, the dwarf loves aluminum, so why not beer cans? The dwarf's eyes widen seeing the crate full of orichalcum. He tries a can, only to spit it out immediately, the taste absolutely horrible. To avoid another shouting match, Jinhyuk quickly offers him some soju instead. The dwarf takes a swig, and while he's mildly satisfied, there's clearly room for improvement. Jinhyuk can sense it. The dwarf is looking for that extra kick. Taking advantage of the moment, the dwarf gives Jinhyuk a new quest: mine some mithril ore. What does mithril have to do with alcohol? Who knows, but Jinhyuk wants free gear, so he's in. He dives deeper into the labyrinth, emerging at a large forest clearing on the second floor. A menu pops up, telling him he can record this location as a warp point. Jinhyuk has no idea what a warp point is, but accepts anyway, creating a portal to travel between floors. He ventures further, reaching the second floor ominously called Dogs and Skeletons. Immediately, monster dogs leap at him. Compared to the orcs he fought before, these are nothing more than free XP. He swings his bat with abandon, wiping out 25 of them, and collecting their corpses. That haul alone should net him a solid 200 million won. Tempting as the money is, he has to stay focused on his mission mining that mithril ore. As he journeys deeper, skeletons start appearing. Since skeletons can't be sold and must be destroyed by breaking their core, Jinhyuk realizes why the dwarf sent him instead of going himself. Skeletons are an absolute pain to deal with, but they do help boost his level to 100, unlocking a new class. Expecting a berserker or warrior class after all the fighting he's done, he's shocked to find out he's been designated a cleric. After dispatching the skeletons, he finally collects the mithril. The dwarf, who doubted he'd make it back alive, seems impressed. As a reward, he offers to forge anything Jinhyuk wants. Already armed with a legendary bat, Jinhyuk requests lightweight armor that can still withstand heavy hits. The dwarf gets to work, and Jinhyuk heads home for a well-deserved nap. A few hours later, he returns to find the dwarf ready with a new piece mithril chainmail. It's designed to fit snugly under his shirt and hoodie, making it the perfect hidden armor. To demonstrate, the dwarf smacks Jinhyuk in the chest with a hammer, an attack that would have normally broken a rib or two, but Jinhyuk barely feels it. With this armor and his enchanted bat, his combat skills have skyrocketed. Meeting this dwarf was definitely the lucky break he'd been waiting for. But the dwarf isn't done. He hands Jinhyuk a large barrel of soju, made from the mithril ore Jinhyuk brought back. Jinhyuk takes it home to try, and discovers the dwarf was right. the mithril barrel has transformed the soju into something completely unique. With this in hand, he contacts the black market dealer again, offering not only cobalt corpses but now also premium quality liquor. Meanwhile, in another part of town, the Titan Guild is finishing a training session when an unexpected anomaly gate opens, spewing hordes of lizardmen. The deputy guildmaster, Du-yun, stubbornly refuses to call for backup, pushing his team to hold the line on their own. Jinhuk, however, is having a much better day. His cleric class is now officially registered, and he's been promoted from D rank to C rank. Given that clerics are rare and highly sought after by top guilds, he's excited about the new opportunities. Just then, a bloodied hunter bursts in, desperate for a cleric's help. Jinhuk volunteers, and is taken to the site where Titan Guild members are locked in battle with the lizardmen. He's instructed to stay in the back and heal as many people as he can. Jinhuk wants to jump in on the action, but the guild member assures him that healing is all he needs to do, and he'll be handsomely paid once the fight is over. The healer's presence is enough to keep the guild members fighting, but the waves of lizardmen are relentless. One of the other clerics suggests calling a support guild for backup, as the odds are starting to look grim. Just as Jinhuk is considering their next move, he senses a hostile presence behind him. His trusty bat saves him from a near-fatal blow delivered by a sneaky lizardman who somehow bypassed all the hunters, aiming straight for the healers. Realizing that the rear defense has been breached, Jinhuk swings his bat, sending the attacker flying. He quickly warns the other clerics about the breach, understanding that he's the only one who can hold them off. The monsters must have used the concealment technique to slip through, planning to ambush the healers from behind. Jinhuk instructs the clerics to focus on healing and leave the lizardmen to him. The other clerics look at him with concern. They think he's just another ordinary healer like them, but Jinhuk charges in, reassuring them with a confidence he's only kind of feeling himself. In reality, he's nervous, but he manages to hold his ground against the onslaught. At one point, a lizardman slips past his guard and lunges for another cleric. Jinhuk bolts after it, leaping just in time to intercept the attack. He lands a rush blow, but leaves himself open for a stab from behind. Thankfully, the dwarf's chainmail armor absorbs the impact, leaving the monster in shock when its attack doesn't work. Jinhuk seizes the moment, countering with a solid swing to the creature's face, managing to hold the line and allowing the clerics to focus solely on healing. Suddenly, the lizardmen freeze, as a powerful figure joins the fray, a man who takes down one of the monsters with a single punch. It's Seo Sangho, the Titan Guildmaster himself. He nods at Jinhuk and asks if he was the one who took down all the monsters in the area. Jinhuk, a bit confused about who this powerhouse is, admits he was handling things here. The clerics are baffled. How could he not recognize Sangho, the infamous S-rank hunter? With no time to spare, Sangho heads back into battle, promising to reward Jinhuk for his help later. As soon as he steps in, his presence immediately raises everyone's spirits, everyone except Du-yun, who's clearly irritated. Sangho takes charge without hesitation, barking orders and commanding attention from all the hunters. With the area cleared, he unleashes a powerful shockwave attack that sends the lizardmen flying. In mere moments, Sangho has wiped out the remaining monsters. Satisfied that his guild members are now safe, Sangho turns to Du-yun, grabbing him by the jacket to reprimand him. What was he thinking, risking his life and the lives of everyone else like that? Du-yun claims he just wanted to protect the guild's reputation, but Sangho sees through him. It's not about the guild, is it? It's about his pride. Their tense standoff is broken when one of the guild members reminds Sangho to dismiss the clerics who helped secure the area. Sangho composes himself and addresses the hunters, thanking them for their efforts, especially Jinhuk, who played a key role in keeping everyone alive. As a gesture of gratitude, Sangho invites Jinhuk to join the Titan Guild directly, skipping the usual registration process. Du-yun can't hold back, immediately stepping in to belittle Jinhuk as just a D rank who got lucky. Sangho snaps back loudly. He reminds the shitface that this mere D rank saved countless lives that would have been lost without his determination. Sangho then forces Du-yun to apologize, delivering a heavy blow to his pride. However, Jinhuk declines the offer. He's not interested in joining a guild where people like Du-yun hold authority. That's the final straw for Du-yun, who lunges at Jinhuk with an enhanced punch, only to be met by Jinhyuk's bat squarely in the stomach. The blow knocks him out cold, and the scene soon makes headlines, sparking quite a buzz in the local news. The next day, the higher-ups of the Titan Guild are seething over what happened to Du-yun. Not only was he publicly embarrassed by a mere C rank, but he was also demoted from his position as Deputy Guildmaster. They demand that this C rank show up before them to explain himself. However, Sangho, the Guildmaster, isn't having any of it. He points out that Du-yun not only put multiple guild members at risk for the sake of his pride, but also attempted to attack someone who fought for their guild. That's more than enough reason for a demotion in Sangho's eyes. This comment shuts the gathered crowd down, leaving them with nothing to say. Sangho sends them on their way, but his thoughts wander back to the extraordinary C rank he witnessed the other day. Before he grows any stronger, he must get Kang Jinhuk to join his guild, no matter what. Jinhuk was chilling in his apartment, sprawled on the couch with a drink in hand, lazily checking his spending habits. Since his last hunting spree brought in a ton of cash, he'd gone overboard with expenses, and now things were looking wild. If he'd known it'd turn out like this, he probably would have taken that extra pay the Titan Guild offered him. Still, he didn't really care. He had better ways to make money anyway. After some much-needed downtime, he hopped back into the dungeon, ready to stack more monster corpses for cash. But hunting the same old weak monsters wasn't cutting it anymore. Now that he'd powered up, he craved tougher fights. So, he pushed deeper into the second floor, only to stumble into a small army of orcs waiting for him. One tried to sneak from behind, but Jinhuk smoothly dodged and countered, dropping the orc in a single hit. As more swarmed in, he couldn't help but think that a few days ago, this would have been game over for him. Thanks to his new gear though, he handled them like it was nothing, and soon 20 orc corpses were lying at his feet, enough loot to keep him set for a year. Still feeling fired up, he ventured deeper, stepping into the third floor, known as the Temple Guardian's Labyrinth. It looked empty at first, but the calm shattered when the ground began shaking violently. A giant stone hand erupted from below, and Jinhuk barely dodged in time. The hand belonged to a stone golem made of pure mana, fast, heavy, and way too strong. Even blocking its hits sent him staggering backward. Realizing it was dumb but powerful, he aimed for its head and shattered it clean, only to watch it start reforming. That's when it hit him. Golems only die when their core is destroyed. Before he could regroup, the monster's arm regenerated and grabbed him mid-escape. Just when he thought he was done for, an arrow zipped through the air and nailed the golem right in the chest. Seizing the moment, Jinhuk dashed in, jabbed through its back, cracked the core, and ended the fight for good. Turning around to thank his savior, he expected that dwarf from before, but instead, standing there was a stunning elf woman with long pointed ears and a look that could kill. Before he could even speak, she stormed over, grabbed his collar, and started grilling him about who he was and where he came from. She clearly wasn't from his world. His outfit alone had her confused. After bombarding him with questions, she finally eased up when he mentioned he'd just entered the dungeon today. Her eyes widened as she shoved him down, shouting that he knew the way out. Dropping her bow, she looked half crazy, half relieved, claiming she'd finally found a way to escape. Jinhuk, still dazed, tried to ask what the hell was going on, but she ignored him completely and demanded that he guide her out. He rolled his eyes, thinking she was way too pushy, but damn, she was pretty, so he let it slide. She promised him a huge reward for helping her, bragging that she was a platinum-ranked mercenary and totally trustworthy. Introducing herself as Lucia, a half-elf with a reputation, she was shocked when Jinhuk admitted he'd never heard of her. When she flashed her badge, he still looked clueless, making her ask if he was from some countryside dump. "I'm from Seoul, Korea," he replied flatly, and her face went blank. She realized right then that a crazy mage might have actually succeeded with a dimensional hop spell. According to her, a mage from her world cast some experiment that ended up pulling this entire dungeon into his dimension. It sounded insane to Jinhuk, but it lined up with everything that felt off. If the dungeon returned to its original world, it could screw him over completely. When he asked if she planned to send it back, she said it wasn't possible to reverse the magic here. It was way too complex. But there might be a hidden room on this floor that could help, one she'd found long ago while searching for an exit. She asked for his help getting there, promising a solid reward in return. Since the deal didn't sound half bad, Jinhuk decided to tag along because honestly, this weird-ass adventure had just started getting interesting. As they kept moving through the dungeon, cutting down a few stray orcs along the way, Jinhuk couldn't help but realize that Lucia was way stronger than he first assumed. That arrow she'd fired earlier wasn't just some lucky shot, it packed serious power, and honestly, fighting her here would have been suicide. His best play was to stay chill, cooperate with her, and keep observing how she handled things. After trekking for a while, they decided to take a breather at a safe spot. Jinhuk had stashed a few emergency chocolates in his pocket, so he handed one to her, thinking it'd be a nice gesture. Turns out she loved it a little too much before he knew it. She devoured his entire stash like a sugar-crazed maniac and was still asking for more. Unfortunately, that was all he had left, but she looked satisfied enough to keep going, so he figured they were good for now. Eventually, they reached a massive chamber that housed the dungeon's boss, and Lucia was convinced the mage's spell they were looking for might be hidden in there somewhere. The only problem, it was guarded by the boss itself. She told him not to stress too much, just to back her up once she took the big guy down so they could access the sealed room. The moment they stepped inside, the monster roared loud enough to shake the walls and charged straight at them. Lucia didn't even flinch. She pulled back her bow, energy crackling around her as she shouted for him to watch closely. Channeling something called aura, she fired an arrow that smashed straight into the boss's chest, sending it crashing onto its back like a ragdoll. One hit from her was enough to drop that massive armored beast. Yeah, she was definitely showing off. Now it was Jinhyuk's turn to finish the job before the thing recovered. Remembering how golems work, he knew the core was the weak point, so he leapt onto the monster's chest and swung his bat right where he thought it'd be. The first hit didn't do much, and before he could go again, a huge fist came flying from the side. He barely blocked it, activating his cleric skill Holy Shield just in time, and using the recoil to spring himself right back onto the creature's chest. If one hit wasn't enough, then fine, he'd just keep smashing until it stopped moving. After a few solid blows, the bat finally broke through, cracking the core wide open and ending the fight for good. His level shot up again, almost reaching 200, and he could feel the raw power rushing through him. When it was all over, he turned to Lucia and asked her to teach him how to use aura like she did. But the funny thing was, he had already used it without realizing. His shield skill had transformed his holy cleric power into aura on its own. Lucia had no clue what kind of skill that was, but seeing his potential, she figured he could probably learn to control aura way faster than she expected. Maybe even start enhancing his attacks right away. Still, before she'd agree to teach him properly, she gave him one simple condition: go back and bring her more chocolates.